Hey guys, how the hell are you? Welcome back to Arnold Drinks and welcome back to Mini Bottle Monday. My name is Arnold and tonight I drink. So today we got a little bit of a double header today. I have found a couple of different Four Roses in a couple of different stores, so I figure, hey, why not? Believe it or not, I have never had any Four Roses. So this is literally going to be my first time trying anything from this brand, and you're going to get to see me try two different ones. I have the single barrel here, and I also have the small batch select. Now, you'll notice right away there's definitely a difference between these two. Honestly, it looks a little bit closer to a traditional mini bottle right here. It's got the screw top on there. It's got kind of a unique shape to it though. Very reminiscent of the larger bottle that it comes in, and then also very reminiscent of the larger bottle it comes in. The single barrel 50 milliliter looks extremely similar, including the engraved Four Roses that is in the glass itself, as well as a little mini cork. But enough about the store presentation. Let's actually get into the whiskey therein. So let's try the single barrel first as far as the aroma goes. Immediate honey notes. A little bit of stone fruit in there, maybe some peach. A little bit of melon is coming out of nowhere, but like a really kind of rich cantaloupe smell. Maybe an ever so slight hint of mintiness in there. Now let's check out the small batch select. Ooh, wow. That is thick in the aroma, especially compared to the single barrel. That is a much thicker aroma. There's a lot that has to be peeled back there. So I'm actually getting something like baking chocolate? Cacao, I guess would probably be a good way of putting it. It smells like cacao. There's a little bit of a sweetness to it. And see, now going in another time, underneath that chocolate, there's a lot of fruit underneath. Oh my god, what is that? Like, you can tell it's like a fruity kind of sweetness, but what? Maybe apple and peach? A little bit of banana in there too, I'm getting. Two similar but different aromas on these. Let's go back in again on the single barrel. It's funny, as intense as the honey was when I first picked this up and held it to my nose, it's even more intense the second time around after smelling that. Honey, peach, definitely a little bit of apple and a minty spice to it. Go back into the small batch select here, see if that changes. And there too, a lot more of kind of everything. A lot more of the chocolate there. A lot of honey is coming out now. A lot more of the fruit. There's peach, there's apricot, a little bit of plum I'm getting. Some different spices. Like, it smells a little bit spicy, but it's different from the typical baking spices that I get from a lot of bourbons. So that's interesting. Take a moment there to look at the color difference. It's noticeable. The single barrel is just a teeny tiny bit lighter than the small batch select. The small batch select is definitely darker. Also a little bit thicker legs going down the sides of the glass there. The small batch select is 104 proof. The single barrel is 100 proof. So let's go into the single barrel first. Cheers. Oh wow. So when you think about a fruity sweetness for a bourbon, like just thinking about the stuff I've got on the shelf behind me, I've never had anything quite like this. This is super intense cornucopia fruit notes on here, but different from whenever I've had a scotch that has a lot of different fruit notes, where there it seems to be tempered by the earthiness. Here there's no earthiness in play. There's definitely a tannic quality about it, like it's drying out the mouth. It's very, very oaky, but I shouldn't even say that it's very, very oaky, but there's definitely a a fair amount of oak presence in there. But all of those fruit notes are really coming out. I know that there was a whole bunch more going on with this underneath like the chocolate, but here getting apple, getting peach, getting apricot, getting the cantaloupe, a really strong cantaloupe note, getting a real strong honey note. They're all melding really quite well. There's definitely a baking spice character in there as well. Let's go in for one more sip before we move on to the small batch select. So much fruit on the front of the palate and on the mid palate. Back of the palate, all of a sudden now starting to get a lot more of that oak presence coming through. Like, it's coming through in a big way, and it's carrying over to the finish. Big woody notes, dry, tannic, kind of sucking the moisture out a little bit dusty, a little bit earthy on the back end, but it's melding so well with what was on the front end. The honey is also still carrying over to the finish too. It's rich with just kind of a natural sweetness to it that's going back down, but still with the oak kind of intermingling with it. That's really, really nice. Now let's go back in with the small batch select. Let's actually try tasting this for the first time ever. Oh man, there's a lot to unpack with that. That is dramatically different. So right from the onset, you're hit with those same kind of cacao notes that were present in the aroma, a little bit of the fruitiness that's in there too, the apple, there's a little bit of the peach thing that's happening here too, definitely with a little bit darker fruit like the plum coming through in a big way too, and then out of nowhere comes this tannic, rougher oak note that's carrying with it a lot more of the dark cocoa notes, like kind of like a cocoa powder almost that's on the back end of the palate. Let's go in for another sip. Along with the fruit and the chocolate, there's a minty, spicy thing going on there too. Kind of an herbal, medicinal quality to it. It's really, really interesting. Like, it's kind of funny to me, like I taste both of these and I can actually totally understand that they're in the same family by the same brand, they're the same distiller, etc. But at the same time, like, I can definitely tell a huge difference between the two, mostly in terms of, you know, kind of the sharpness, the, like I said, the rougher edge that this has going on to it, but it's like a roughness that actually brings flavor with it. There's just a certain graininess when chewing it, when kind of swishing it around a little bit, that is really tannic heavy, and it's sort of amplifying a lot of those oaky, spicy, and minty notes too. So probably that's the rye coming through on this mash bill a little bit. This is a blend of several different recipes that Four Roses makes, so I wouldn't be surprised if there's just a ton of rye in some of those, because it is making itself known in a big way, but at the same time intermingling with all of that fruit sweetness that's in there, and also the chocolate too. Ooh, the chocolate is really in there in a big way. So both of these, very, very interesting. Like I said at the beginning of the video, this is actually my first time having any Four Roses products ever. And I have to admit, I kind of quite liked both of them. So I do have to say though that as far as like the small batch select goes, $7.50 for a little mini bottle here, a little airplane bottle. Definitely something where it was good to get my hands on and try this out so I can see if I dig it. I'm going to pass on this at about $55, $60 for the 750 milliliter for a fifth. I feel like that's honestly a very, very fair price for it. It's an interesting bourbon. There's a lot going on, but not quite my jam like the single barrel itself is. To me, I feel like the single barrel is a lot more my jam, and this is something that I can definitely see myself spending the money on to put on my shelf behind me. I'm really digging all of the fruit characteristics to this. The sort of astringency that you get with it is not overpowering like it is a little bit with the small batch select. That sort of cornucopia of fruit note that's in there isn't being hindered by the oakiness, isn't being hindered by any sort of dryness or anything like that. It's just a lot of fruit characteristics to it, a lot of fruit sweetness, so that is definitely something that I'm an extreme fan of. So I think I need to get a fifth of this at some point in the future. So thank you guys so very much for tuning in. Please remember to like this video, subscribe to this channel. Happy Mini Bottle Monday to you. And as always, please remember, take what you do seriously. Do not take yourselves too seriously.